Hey, everybody, welcome back to Live with Madeline, Katie, and Dale, your monthly live show powered by the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast. Today is Tuesday, April 21st. And if you're joining us for the first time, this is our monthly live show where we unpack the real life challenges families face around senior care, housing, financial planning, and all the complicated decisions that can show up when a loved one needs help or when a crisis hits. And throughout the show, we'll be answering live questions, provided that I'm able to see them. So if you want to submit a question during the episode, just scan the QR code that you see on the screen, or you could head to simplifyseniortransitions.com/live. That same form will pop up there and you could submit a question anonymously. And who knows, your question might make it on the air. For those of you who do not know me yet, I'm Dale Corpus. I'm one of your hosts, a senior transition strategist and senior focused real estate expert based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the simplest way to say what I do, it's this. I help families figure out how to pay for senior care, especially when a home is involved. And I guide them through housing, care, and finances so they don't make costly mistakes. Real quick, I want to also introduce my two co-hosts. Madeline Fortich and Katie Perez both work with families in these exact same situations. Again, they're my co-hosts for this monthly live show. Madeline also has a real estate background, and I know right now she's in California recording this, but she's based in Georgia now. She's also a licensed insurance agent, so she's seen how these situations play out when there's a home involved, especially in areas where a lot of families don't have formal plans in place. And Katie has a mortgage and financial background, as well as her life insurance license too. And so she understands how families actually fund care and what options they have. And today's topic is one that a lot of families avoid until they have no choice. Who's responsible after death? And we're talking about what really happens when someone passes and there's no clear executor, no real plan. Family members aren't aligned and everybody is suddenly trying to figure things out in real time. So you guys are ready? Madeline and Katie?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go.
Get into it.
Welcome to the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast, where we help families navigate senior living, real estate, and everything in between. Hosted by Senior Transition Specialist Dale Corpus, this show brings you expert insights, real solutions, and stress-free strategies to make senior transitions simple. Ready to dive in? Let's go.
Here we go. Here's the first question. So when someone passes away and there is no clear executor or a plan, what do you think families misunderstand and understand the most about what happens next? And I'll preface it with this. I want to start broad here because I think a lot of people assume that if somebody passes, things just naturally fall into place. But I know that's not how it works.
Yes.
So let's shed some light. Who wants to go?
I can start with that one. So there's, the thing here is there's expectations from different parties and those expectations don't usually align. So that, and that's probably the easiest thing to deal with because it's internal.
Yeah.
But we can all agree that that could get messy. Well, how about if we add to the picture the legal aspect of it, right? What if there's nothing there there was no preparation made and the biggest asset that this family has is the house and now it has to go through probate?
Yeah.
Then that's a whole nother can of worms that they're opening.
Yeah.
And that's just two examples that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. I think that one of the most important things to consider, again, I always go back to planning. I'm a big planner. Anyone who knows me personally knows that I have to write everything down and have a plan. And the reason why is because you think about it, when there's impact that happens to these families, everything goes out the window. Any level of sanity that can be reached goes out the window when everything is driven by emotion. And so one thing I say is, at least in one framework, in a moment of time, everybody was on point in putting something into a plan. And the one thing I tell people is, remember to visit that plan. Just because you did it once doesn't mean that it's good for all eternity, right? Like for some of us, you know, I come across people who created their living trust and they did it 20 years ago. And the people they named as people who will execute the wishes aren't even cognizant in their own mind anymore because the person they chose was somebody older than them or somebody who had their own personal impact, right? So I tell people, schedule a time to, like, Christmas is mine. My family knows this. Like, let's review the living trust during the holidays because, I like to shake things up a little bit every year. Here are your Christmas gifts and let's review the living trust. Okay, let's go down the list of things that need to be reviewed, which includes making sure that the executor still has some sort of capacity and there's a backup plan. Because what if the two people you select are now not two viable people? And the perfect example is what happened during COVID. I mean, two people is not enough people for a lot of people. And then all of a sudden, what happens when all those people are not available? You want to rely on the next possible thing, which in that situation may be intervention from the outside, which nobody likes. I mean, it's hard enough to get along with the people internally in a family. What more when you bring in people from the outside, the legal system, to help you make that decision? So again, my big thing is planning, big planning.
Madeline brought a good point there by talking about medical situation, right? Because not having an estate plan means that you don't also have your medical directive. Most likely you don't have that. You don't have a power of attorney. And what if you find yourself in a medical situation and you cannot speak for yourself? Then you've got all these inputs as to what should be done, but nobody authorized to make a decision. So that's a huge confusion.
Yeah, you bring up a good point where you want to have control and, say what happens when you pass this versus just leaving it up to the court system.
Right.
We would want,
Well,
and
I have
I
another
didn't
one
think
to
about,
just
I didn't think
throw
about the
out
COVID
there.
situation too. The COVID situation where it's like, if two people not might be enough.
I mean,
Yeah.
what if two people are no longer there? And then I'll throw out one more because this actually hits close to home for me, is if you don't have, like, say, for example, you have two identified people, right?
Uh-huh.
I actually opted for none of those people, no one that's related to me people. There's
Uh-huh.
other options. Maybe I need somebody that's not within my family structure because I love them enough not to choose someone who's going to have that pressure, that internal emotional pressure of having to make a decision they may not even personally want to make for me.
Right. So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is so hard to put a loved one in that situation and have them carry that weight because that individual will never make the right decision for everyone.
Correct.
Moving on. Okay, so why do you think so many families still avoid these conversations ahead of time?
The cost, a lot of times people think that it's too expensive. And what I have is not, it doesn't justify having to spend. In planning, people always focus on the quantifiable aspect of it, the money
Mhm.
part of it, right? They always think, oh, it's not millions of dollars that we're talking about. But people forget it's not just the money part that needs to be addressed. It's the part of your life that needs to be addressed also. Do you want to put that responsibility on a loved one?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I forgot your question, Dale. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Go ahead.
Well, why do you think so many families still avoid these conversations ahead of time?
Okay,
How about this?
I'll
Is it
throw.
is it culture? Is it guilt? Is it
It's
not wanting
culture.
to
I
be
think culture has something to do with it, and I think that nobody likes to talk about the fact that there's a definite end date for all of us, right? And I know that, and my mother will tell me that I'm very morbid at the work that I do, but I also tell her the amount of love I show for my family is so that you don't go through probate. Like, I love you so much that you will never have to go to probate for any of my things. I love you so much that I chose to pick somebody who is not my parent to make a hard decision that, I have a do not resuscitate order. I don't want extraordinary measures. Like, think about it from the standpoint, both of you are parents. And can you imagine having the thought process of you have to make that choice for your child? And obviously something has gone definitely wrong that you have to make a consideration to end them medically. Like, I would not want to put that on a loved one. So maybe the thought process is, yeah, it will cost money, just like anything else does. It'll cost money if you set up a living trust. Do you think it'll be cheaper 30, 40 years from now to go to the imaginary, who knows, probate court years ahead of time in the hopes that you can afford to go to court to get back what people say is not a lot, but it's the fact that somebody spent their lifetime earning it and you don't want to fight for it. And it could be prevented in so many ways by doing the planning in the front and paying for it in the front. It'll be cheaper today than it will be 30 years from now, because in 30 years, we don't even know how that process evolves. It's going to be a tough conversation no matter what. You pick your tough. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, you can pick the one that you know, the evil that you know, or the one that you don't know. So the choice is yours.
Absolutely.
Understood. Yeah. Here's a deeper question. How about this? The deeper discussion. What? When there's a home involved, how does that change the situation after someone passes? Let me preface it with this. I mean, I think this is where it could get especially complicated, because now it's just not just grief. It's also, what do we do with the house, right? Who has authority? Who's paying the bills? And this is where, should someone stay in it? Should they even keep it? And who gets what?
Who gets what? And like I said earlier, people's expectations don't necessarily align. And now that you're talking, money does funny things to people.
Oh, yeah.
It brings out a side that you never thought was there. And again, that's the easy part. Now you have to deal with lawyers or probates, and depending how far that goes, even more reason if you have a house, even more reason to plan properly for it. And not just because of what people expect, but also for tax purposes. Do you want most of your hard-earned money to go to IRS when it could have gone to your family? So there are ways to prepare for it. We're not saying that you'll avoid paying taxes, because that's just not realistic. We're not setting a realistic expectation if we claim that. That's a total lie. But planning ahead would minimize it. It makes it more manageable, relatively manageable.
I agree with that statement. I think planning is always the key to a lot of these things. There's a framework to work within. There is room to make adjustments as time progresses. And as the people that are in the family have their own families and their responsibilities grow or shrink depending on how their family dynamic is, then at least there's a framework to always reference and come back to, because there's a basis of this is what they originally wanted for. And now as time progresses, maybe these things are not possible. The home definitely complicates the matter, because again, if the children grew up in the home, maybe there's emotional attachments to it. There's, the personal stuff. If I could tell you the number of times that homes are dissected down to china cabinets and snap-on toolboxes, and that's what they're arguing about in the garage at this moment is, the snap-on toolbox. I really wish that snap-on toolbox was listed in the personal items in, what's to be executed in the living trust, as that was the most valuable thing. And to think the parents probably at the time didn't really care about that snap-on toolbox. And that is the crux of why families get broken apart. Two siblings never talking to each other again over a toolbox or something that could have been clearly delineated when everybody was sound mind, supposedly, right? You're of your sound mind, and putting a list of things down and what those values are to the people that are leaving them behind. I think it's a very important practice. And so in practicing this, just like with anything else, practicing these conversations stretches the emotional capacity for those involved in it, because at the end of the day, when the impact happens, everyone's emotions are going to be obliterated. There's nobody who's going to be left unscathed. And so as much as, my family members probably don't enjoy that this is a topic that's near and dear to me, I tell them to practice these moments as often as you can with the family members that are alive that you can help, because when the time comes, you don't want to be squabbling over bits and shreds of personal property. And that's what the end result is an entire family that doesn't speak to each other moving forward.
Yeah, that's a very clear picture you just nicely articulated.
Yeah, you articulated it so well. a lot of times I'm dealing with the adult children when the parent is still alive. I mean, this episode is about, after death or whatnot, but it's still related. I mean, a lot of the times when there's adult children and there's a house and, their parents involved, I tend to say that a lot of these real estate problems that they have, these housing decisions, real estate problems are actually like care problems or care funding decisions in disguise though too. But on top of that, it's also an estate decision, and also it's a family decision, which also includes the sibling dynamics and the just overall family dynamics. All in all, it's quite a
Yes.
roller coaster ride for them,
Yes.
and the people helping them too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, when we're talking about these things, and especially if the person who owns all of this is no longer here, has passed away, the preparation, it's really for their loved ones and for their family, so that their family can still stay intact and still love each other, or at the very least, still like each other.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next question. Are there any special situations families especially overlook, like veterans, benefits, or regional differences in planning?
Yeah. Sometimes there might be tell a story about somebody who passed away who was very devout to his religion. Unfortunately, the kids didn't feel that way. So when he passed away, there was no religious practice done. There was no sacraments of last rites. There were no memorial service, no funeral service, none of that. Of course, we don't know what that could do on the other side, but if it was something that was important to the individual who passed away, then for me, it would be at least important for the family to acknowledge it and to celebrate it. But not everybody feels that way. So if you want to make it, you want to make sure that your family will respect what your chosen religion is, better let them know that that's what you want, because it could be overlooked.
That's a big question, Dale. Things that get overlooked, I think, are sensitive, the hypersensitive conversations, like do not resuscitate, organ donation, right? So I have my own firm stance on both of those things. And it only came to test when I was in a car accident 3 years ago. And I actually had to explain to my parents that had that situation turned out worse, that there is paperwork that's filed that would state that there are no extraordinary measures that will happen for me. And I had to have that conversation because I thought to myself, when I drafted my own living trust years ago, I thought, okay, I'm doing them a favor. Like, at least, I didn't want to be put on life support, all these sensitive, ultra sensitive questions. My mom comes from a medical background. She believes that, Western medicine, there's a solution for everything, right? So in this conversation, I told my mother, I said, look, I even put the verbiage in a way that solidifies there's no way that that person executing my medical wishes will think, oh yeah, it's a great idea. Let's just plug Madeline in because, she can be turned into half robot, half Megatron or whatever later into the future, right? But these are the things where if you don't have these conversations with your loved ones, what's going to be the end result? You're going to end up with a fractured family because somebody let me die, right? When really that was my own personal wish. I didn't want organ donation. Like I've told my mother this. And as, again, Western medicine practitioner, she gave me the long laundry list of how many people could live off of the organs that can be harvested from my body. And I grew up hearing this because my mom was a medical professional. And I said, and again, these are my own personal wishes, and people can scrutinize it however they wish, but they're my wishes. It's my body. This is how I want to be respected. I came into this world whole, and I would like to leave whole. But can you imagine if nobody has any of these things lined up and your body's donated to science? And for some, it's not horrifying, but for others, it could be. And so these things tend to be overlooked because they're hypersensitive conversations that nobody wants to have. But in this, again, stretching of relationships, stretching what your family's made of, this is important to have those conversations, because I'm sure had I not ever explained that, and that was the case, that I was, harmed enough that, and I put it there, I have to be returned to 110% of the day previous. That's not going to happen. Medically, it's not going to happen. They'd have to let me go.
Mhm.
And I'm sure my parents would have sat there and thought, okay, like, who are we suing right out the top of the gate? Like, who's doing what? And you think of the financial impact of that, right?
Mhm.
So make sure you have these conversations, because like Dale said, it's a roller coaster ride of emotions that they're going through. But at least if you've had that preparation and conversation early on, there are no surprises when something catastrophic happens, and at least it's been addressed. Now, the second thing I can think of off the top of my head that has not been mentioned in any of, I think, our previous calls is the advent of cryptocurrency. I know, completely different end of the spectrum here. Cryptocurrency and like seed phrases. Like, where do you hide the seed phrases to capture your crypto wallet? Like, where do you put these things? And again, if you didn't know that your family members earned cryptocurrency, now would be the time to have those conversations,
Mhm.
because there's nothing more horrifying than hearing, my soon to be 87-year-old dad asking me, what to do with Bitcoin. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, maybe I didn't ask the right question. Like, maybe he has an account, but this is par for the course. You don't ask, you're not going to be enlightened. You have to ask and put yourself out there to have that conversation with your loved one. So now it's like my laundry list of things I ask are getting longer every year, and I just keep adding new things to it. Because again, when impact happens, I'm going to rely on the fact that I wrote something down and I have a framework by which to help my family, any family.
So to Madeline's point of her not knowing what kind of assets her dad might have, even at his age, because he's very hip that way.
Yeah.
There's also families who, believe it or not, doesn't even know that their parents were veterans,
Wow.
right? And sometimes, if the family is in a financial situation that could use some help, Veterans Affairs might be able to provide a solution for them or some assistance for them. Might not be much, but still, a final resting place for the veteran. So it is so important to have those conversations. My dad is military. He retired from the military. I didn't even know that among his peers, they all agreed to be buried in a memorial park where all the military is buried. I'm like, okay, surprise. So what about all those memorial plots that you bought for the family?
Uh-huh.
Well, I was going to be there with everyone else without you. Yeah, I need to know. I mean, maybe he wasn't comfortable talking about it, and maybe he hasn't made a decision about it yet, but I want to be able to respect his wishes. So yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
Conversation.
that is real. Hey, moving on for sake of time, I want to move to our fact or fiction segment. This is one of my favorite parts of our show now, because it forces us to separate what families assume is true from what actually happens. You guys both ready?
Mhm.
All right. If your parent, well, fact or fiction, let me say that. If your parents told you verbally what they wanted, when they pass, that should be enough. Fact or fiction?
Yeah, we should know it's true. We have a very litigious society, and there's a lot of lawyers who aren't working. So sorry to my lawyer friends there, but that was not very diplomatic. But we are in a very litigious society, and there's such a thing as a probate court.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that one was easy. Okay. That one's obviously fiction. Verbal wishes matter emotionally, but that does not hold up in court.
No.
Here's the next one. Probate only matters if the estate is very large. Fact or fiction?
Fiction. How many medical situations did we share, Madeline?
Well, I don't know. I mean, at this moment, I'm sure there's still hope that I could be a medical professional. And that's an inside joke, because my mother, Tina, would love it if I went to school. I could be a nurse.
Her mom is still hoping. Her mom never failed. Her mom has this strong desire to see Madeline get her cap.
Yeah. A nurse's cap. I just have the wrong kind of bedside. It's completely, utterly like, oh no, this is not for me. I'm not designed for this kind of work. Thank you for trying.
Yeah. Hey, that probate thing, maybe some people think that it's only a rich person's problem, rich people problem, but that's not really how it works.
Not at all.
It's for everybody.
To everybody.
There's no
It's for everybody.
discrimination there.
It's for everybody, yeah. And like what I said, I mean, it's not just a matter of those things that you own. It's for you also. Who's gonna make those decisions about you if you're gonna live longer or not?
Yeah.
Okay. Last one, fact or fiction. The hardest part after someone passes is the emotional side. The logistics are straightforward.
Depends
God,
depends on how much you love the person, I would say. No, I'm just kidding.
I think that's fiction. I think
Wow.
sometimes logistics are equally as difficult because
Yeah.
this day and age,
Yes.
people are everywhere and anywhere and can be worldwide. I mean, you think about the number of people that talk about retiring abroad, even like how do you
Yeah.
rectify
Yeah.
working in multiple time zones and logistically how to get things through customs? Like it's not as easy as people think it is. I would love to believe that it's all encompassing and it's just that simple, but it just isn't in this day and age. I think life has become extremely complicated just by nature. And the one thing I know for certain that makes it a little bit simpler is the peace of mind of knowing you have some sort of plan put in place.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, the world is getting smaller, and to your point, Madeline, people are all over the place. They decide to retire somewhere completely different. Whether it's domestically, maybe another state, or internationally, another country, right? There's logistics is a nightmare because what could be applicable in one area is not applicable in the other. This document numbered so and so is not the same number in another place. So there's all these things that could go wrong. I think I shared with our viewers that a few months ago when we were traveling overseas, my husband had to undergo an emergency medical procedure. And it was something that we were not expecting, totally caught us, it blindsided us.
Yeah.
And as he was being wheeled into the OR, of course, I didn't want to think anything negative, right? But I was like, oh my goodness, it gave me some sense of reassurance that at least I have a final expense program for him where I know it's not just the dollar amount of what I got, but the unquantifiable, the service, the value, that's Madeline's favorite word, the value of having that coverage that cannot be quantified. Like, how do I know what documentations? How do I know how to just having that gave me some relief, some sense of relief. And I was able to focus on what needed to be focused.
Yeah. Because you planned ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Planning ahead.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask each of you for a final thought. What's one thing you most want families to take away from today's conversation?
Emotional space. Give each other emotional space to feel what they feel. Like it's a difficult enough topic. As my parents get older, I realize as much as I would like everything to be nice, neat, packaged up with a little bow, and then never look at it again because I don't have to, it's not realistic. You're going to go through many iterations of the paperwork. You're going to go through many iterations of, beating a dead horse over the same toolbox conversation, right? Because things change as they evolve. And to give each other some sort of emotional space and support, be supportive, think about it in a mindful way, and try to take steps to create a calm environment to have these things. Because I'm sure that parents think that you may not have the best ideas in place, but it's coming from a place of love. And when you create that space for them, maybe that eases the way to keep having these conversations. Because when you cut each other off based on the volatility of emotion that comes out when you're talking about these tough subjects, you're hindering the progress that could happen that makes it a lot easier when the time comes that the impact hits you.
Well said. Katie?
I think Madeline said it all. Respect everyone's emotions, what they're going through. Everybody is different. Everybody deals with grief differently. Some resort to anger, some resort to other things. But it's more if you stayed together as a unit, as a family, when everyone was present, there's more reason for you to stay that way when a loved one goes. There's nothing more devastating than to lose not just the loved one, but the entire family, because like what Madeline said, it's a volatility of emotions.
Yeah.
Right. So be respectful. Just remember that we all need each other, really.
Well, um, that's a wrap for this month's Live with Madeline, Katie, and Dale. Thank you so much for spending part of the day with us. Whether you're watching this live or catching the replay, we're truly grateful to be part of your journey through senior care, family planning, and all the complicated decisions in between. A big shout out to my incredible co-hosts, Katie and Madeline. And of course, to everybody who submitted questions. I know that I saw questions, then I didn't see them, but I see them now. But anyway, don't worry. We're going to get to your questions. We may use it to kick off next month's live, or I may feature it on my daily question of the day reels powered by the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast. So for the next episode, if you want to get a question in early, scan the QR code on the screen or go to simplifyseniortransitions.com/live. Again, you could submit a question there anonymously and be part of the show. And don't forget, you can find even more deep dives and expert interviews on the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And if your loved one is facing a senior transition, whether you're trying to figure out how to pay for care, what to do at the home, or how to avoid costly mistakes before a crisis hits, learn more at simplifyseniortransitions.com, because again, that's what I do. That's what we all do. We help families figure out how to pay for senior care, especially when a home is involved. Okay. So thanks again for tuning in. Live with Madeline, Katie, and Dale. We'll see you next month, same time, and the same place. And until then, take care. Remember, you don't need to figure this all out alone.
True. Bye-bye.